Thank you all for coming. I'm just going to be real quick. I want to introduce who you're here to see, obviously. Leighton Meester, please.
Hi.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing all right.
Oh.
So, I'll just kick this off. I wanted to talk a little bit about your record, obviously, Heartstrings. I've heard it. I'm special. But so there's a different overall mood to the songs, I think, from your previous material. And I was wondering, like, how would you describe the music to your fans?
It's hard to describe. People ask you that a lot. They're like, what would you compare it to? Who inspires you musically? I would say just personally, it just really represents me. And it's just me. It's what I like, and I guess if you had to choose somebody to compare it to, I guess I would say just the people that have influenced me. I really love, or I grew up listening to sort of lyrical artists like Tori Amos and Kate Bush, Fiona Apple, and Bonnie Raitt, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Nicks, and it's definitely still kind of got movement and has like a kind of pop structure. Definitely, I think it's still. I mean, if I can say so myself, it's still kind of catchy, but it's definitely much more personal and emotional and vibey.
Yeah, I can definitely hear that. Was that refreshing for you to, coming from your acting background, to kind of do something so personal that was very much you and not a character?
Yeah, because when you're acting, especially if you have any bit of recognition, all you ever do is try not to talk about your personal life, and that's all people want to talk about. But in this, it really is very personal, and I as much as it's about my specific circumstances, I think, I try to put it into words that, hopefully other people can understand, and I am sure that it's that feeling of when you go through something, especially when it's painful, or good for that matter, but mostly painful, that nobody understands. But the truth is that everybody's been through it, and you're not that special. But that's mostly what it's about.
So you've mentioned a lot of your influences, but I think I also know that you're an avid showgoer, and I was wondering if what you've seen lately and liked.
Let me think. I saw Deer Hunter when I was here. I was doing a play here for like 6 months, and there's just all right. All right. I would never have dreamed, like, I don't know how old you are, but like, of Mice and Men! Steinbeck! That's awesome. Yeah, so I saw Deer Hunter. I saw The War on Drugs when I was here as well, and I really loved them. Who else have I seen? I guess I like to go to, I used to live in the West Village, and I used to go to Smalls all the time on Sunday afternoons, and people come in and you can have a little cup of tea and watch people kind of come in with their instruments, just people that play saxophone and, clarinet, and they all play with each other and just kind of go off of each other, and that's kind of cool.
Cool. So back to you. What was the recording and writing process for you?
It was long. It was really drawn out because I have a day job. So it really was like, over the course of a couple of years. It started off, slowly writing and, basically working towards having a body of songs, but really not thinking, oh, this is going somewhere. Never thought that. But then at some point, I ended up being introduced to my producer, who's also playing here with me in a little while. His name is Jeff Trott. And we did a bunch of pre-production. We kind of got together and just got a sense of what each of us was about. And we match. We go together really well. And we just basically sat in his studio for a couple of months, spread out over the course of a year, and did a bunch of pre-production. So, I would play a song and sort of discuss it and figure out the sound and what I was looking for. And then he and I would basically just put together different sounds and find every little element and record it that way in kind of a makeshift rough. Actually, it sounded pretty good for being a pre-production. And then last summer, we got together with a whole band and we did a live room studio recording. And that was with a bunch of musicians that are really awesome, and they all learned their parts. And then after that, I went in and recorded all my vocals, my singing. And then after that, I left for 6 months, and I was like, well, I guess I'm leaving, because I was coming here to do the play, and I thought that I just will never have time to do this. And then after that was done, I was like, oh, holy crap, I can do this. So it's great. And usually when you're an actor too, you have time off and it's like, I'm never gonna work again, and it's like the worst feeling ever. But this is a great feeling because I can take time and actually do it, and I'm really enjoying it.
So also this record is on your own label, Hotly Wanting, is that right? So what made you want to go that route?
Well, first of all, I didn't really think that label name through. I do really like it now, but originally it was just the name of a corporation. They're like, what for music, what do you want it to be? And I was like, what is the idea of like deep desire? What is kind of a synonym for that? And I came up with Hotly Wanting, which makes sense when it's explained, but when it's not, it's pretty hilarious. But so I had that as my corporation, and then I was doing a bunch of other music stuff at the time, and then stopped. And then basically I used to have a different label. They were all fine and good, but just not for me. It was a just totally different style and different just world that I think I just wasn't right for. I really had fun, but I think it's just a side of the business that isn't as fun for me. And then I met with Vagrant Records, and it just seemed like so much more of a fit, and their whole vibe was better. They're so much more into saying that we've heard your album as a whole, the rough idea. We support it. We want you to do what you want to do. We'll do a services deal, which is much less than a real record label. And I had signed with the previous label. When you sign with a label, a lot of the time they give you like a big advance, and they kind of promise all this stuff that, for better or worse, ends up, kind of not happening. But so far so good, and I really enjoy working with them, and they have like, basically the services deal is like you can use us as much as you want or as little as you want, and we'll give you feedback and we'll let you know our opinion or whatever, but mostly it's just creatively I get to control everything, and to some extent, business wise, I can say no, I don't want my CD on that shelf or whatever, but they really have a keen understanding of kind of who I am and what I'm going for.
Cool. So we're going to be hearing a little bit from the record soon, but I was wondering if you have a favorite song on the record and what it is about that song that you like. I'm about to play 3 songs. One of them is the single that maybe people here have been able to hear because you can download it. But the other 2, nobody's heard. The song Heartstrings is really special to me. I'm glad that it was the first song that I could put out as a single. It's also the name of the record. I think it's more just like it's very visual. It's kind of, it represents the feeling of the rest of the record. It's like kind of about hiding your feelings and smiling and pretending that you're happy when you're not. Actually, I would say that it represents most of the record because that's what it's about. It's about just sort of just tying your heartstrings off. It's about not allowing yourself to be vulnerable. And it used to be about some stupid breakup that I had when I was like 25 or earlier. That sounds actually old, probably to this crowd, but it was stupid, and I was like, I have to write a song about this. But now it really does have more of a meaning. At the time, it was like, screw you, I don't care about you anymore. You're trying to get back with me, and it's not going to happen. Joker. But, now it's more about sort of coming to realize, especially like growing up, and I feel like I've done a lot of that in the last couple years. Just about, especially sort of the juxtaposition between my day job and this, being, sort of, no matter what you're going through, you have to embody another character and sort of pretend, which can be fun, but it also can be tiring. So there's some layers there, is what you're saying.
Sure, I like to think that.
Yeah. So are there any other lyrical themes present, or is that basically
No, I mean, I guess that, Heartstrings, the song represents kind of the time in my life that I wrote a lot of these songs, and sort of that feeling. But I have another song on the record that is about, it sounds really happy. And it's really sort of sweet and poppy and chimey and light, and it just, even the lyrics seem like it's about something kind of nice, but it's totally fake. It's totally sarcastic, and it's really just about, it's called L.A., and it's about living in LA and just sort of being like, oh, look, I'm an adult and I have, material things and a home and friends, and I'm a grown up, and but I'm just like desperately lonely, and so that's what that's about.
Yeah, I always say I live in New York because I want an excuse to be miserable, because LA, everything seems so perfect, but I don't know.
I get that. I've been here for like less than maybe 24 hours now, and I've encountered more just mean people. And like I've been in my little bubble, and the people that I'm with, like the band and everybody, it's just like, it's a beautiful day. Why are they so mean? And like, you live in LA, like people appreciate the weather and sort of are more, sunny, I guess, which can probably be annoying too.
So you mentioned that you were working on this record for like the past 2 years or so. Was that like kind of post Gossip Girl, I guess? Or
yeah, I knew that was coming. I finished that like 2 years ago now, and it seems like an instant and like a million years, and a lot has happened. Mostly good. And yeah, I had written a bulk of the album prior to finishing that. And then I went on a tour, actually, with some of these songs with a band that was their own separate band, before I, really got serious about making it into a record. And then I met Jeff, pretty much like within 2 months of living in LA, and he he's traveled all over, but he's from the Bay and he lives in LA and works in Santa Monica, and he's just super laid back. And I had met a few producers, but it's weird. I guess I just hadn't thought of, or like didn't have as much of an understanding of the business side of things. You meet like a producer and they're like, oh, I don't want to produce your record. I want to write your song so I can make money. And he really didn't have that at all. He was more just, into the sound and wanted to be part of it. And he toured for so long, like I think years he was gone. And I was like, you did all these amazing sound. Like he plays the mandolin and steel guitar. And I mean, he plays everything well. And then, I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do without you. And he's like, well, you got to figure it out because I can't tour. And then, recently he was like, oh, so at the show, I'm going to do this and this and that, and I'm like, what are you talking about? Like you're gonna play? And he's like, oh yeah, my wife told me she wants me to leave to go to tour. So I lucked out.
All right, well, I think some people out there have some questions.
Before, when you were on Gossip Girl, you sang with Cobra Starship, and like you had like your own songs that were more like pumping, I guess that's the word, I don't know. And now it's like more like chilled and fun. So like, what made you not want to do like pumping songs anymore?
Well, when you say it that way, I wish I did pumping songs. That sounds good. No, I know what you mean. Well, I think it was a combination of a few things. I think it was a time, and it was that time in my life, I guess, in my work. It really started in 2006. I met my now music manager and, just was experimenting and trying different things and excited about music. And I'd always written, and I'd always, been a singer and loved performing, but I really had no experience. And then at some point, I think it was because, I got on a TV show and people were like, hey, I know you. Then, I got in touch with, or I guess they kind of got in touch with me. Cobra Starship, was like, let's do a song together. And I really still like that song a lot, and I like those people. It's a really fun, it's all like, it was very fun. And then from that, I got a record deal, and from that, I was like, I get to write music and be paid for it and do it. And that's just not how it works, or so I learned. It's kind of like, at least with bigger labels, and this is said with all due respect, but you know, they have an agenda and they want you to work with certain writers and certain producers and collaborate with certain people, and if they don't want you to put out a certain song, especially one that you've written by yourself, so it means barely any money going to different hands, they're not going to promote it if they don't want to. And, you know, I ended up putting out a second song while on the label, but it didn't get any push from them. So I was glad to just, you know, wash my hands of it and you know, very amicably say, I don't think this is right for me and for you. And then we parted ways. And then during that time, I think all along, I sort of like, I liked it, but it wasn't like this. And so during that time, I was writing and just living and being alive and writing, you know, basically the bulk of this album. And then that's how that happened.
Hi.
Hi.
We are some French students here, and we love when you sing in French. So can you say something in French for us?
Qu'est-ce que tu veux? Je vous aime.
Thank
Merci.
you. Thank you.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Anya. I'm a real big fan. But I just want to ask, was it harder to get into the music industry than getting started into the acting industry, or were they kind of equal?
That is a good question. It's hard to say because I started acting when I was a kid, and I don't know if I just like worked for a long time, and by the time I was old enough to, you know, get jobs, it just came easier. And honestly, I know so many people who live here in LA and all over who are like, hey, I want to act, and how do you do that? And I just got very, very lucky. And I mean, lucky in the terms of like, I've been working for 17 years and like, you know, since I was 11 years old. But, so I know how hard it is to break into that. And even still, I mean, I have to say, once you get to one like point in your career, you're like, okay, wait, I'm done. Like, I want to do more. You're like, even now, I think if I look back at 5 years ago, I'd be like, oh, if I were there, I'd be happy. But now I'm there, and I'm like, oh, I want more. And as far as music goes, I really don't know. I was like, totally don't know. I think I'm really lucky in that way because I mean, there's I putting out an album right now for the first time ever, and these people are here and like giving me speeches and stuff, and like that's crazy and totally unheard of for people who just like put out one song so far. So I feel like maybe I have a better understanding of the business side of acting, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easier. I just know it better. But man, both are weird, just weird careers, weird route to go. But totally different and totally fun. Thanks.
Obviously, Heartstrings. I've heard it. I'm special. But so there's a different overall mood to the songs, I think, from your previous material. And I was wondering, like, how would you describe the music to your fans?
It's hard to describe. People ask you that a lot. They're like, what would you compare it to? Who inspires you musically? You know, I would say just personally, it just really represents me. And it's it's just me. It's what I like, and I guess if you had to choose somebody to compare it to, I guess I would say just the people that have influenced me. I really love, or I grew up listening to sort of lyrical artists like Tori Amos and Kate Bush, Fiona Apple, and Bonnie Raitt, Joni Mitchell, Stevie Nicks. And it's definitely still kind of got movement and has like a kind of pop structure. Definitely. I think it's still, I mean, if I can say so myself, it's still kind of catchy, but it's definitely much more personal and emotional and vibey.
Yeah, I can definitely hear that. Was that refreshing for you to, I mean, coming from your acting? Thank you all for coming. Just going to be real quick. I want to introduce who you're here to see, obviously. Leighton Meester, please.
Hi.
Hey.
How you doing?
Doing all right. So, I'll just kick this off. I wanted to talk a little bit about your record, obviously background, to kind of do something so personal that was very much you and not a character.
Yeah, because when you're acting, especially if you have any bit of, recognition, all you ever do is try not to talk about your personal life, and that's all people want to talk about. But in this, it really is very personal, and I as much as it's about my specific circumstances, I think, I try to put it into words that, hopefully